Good evening, this is Miss Andrea, and this is not another homeschool vlog. My channel is 18 years old this week. 18 years old. Is YouTube 18 years old or is YouTube 20? I have no idea, but that kind of blew my mind. So 18 years with the YouTube channel was monetized early on and then demonetized because of the whole scandal that got everyone demonetized, and then remonetized during COVID. And then I've just been all over the place, but please understand, I am a mature adult with ADHD. So my last video with some school questions and issues seemed to strike a nerve. So I'm going to do another one of those. Keep in mind, I would much rather be answering personal homeschool questions from you all. So if these questions that I'm reading strike a nerve, if they make you think of your own issues and questions, please go ahead and ask them, and I promise to include them in my next video. So here are this week's questions. Please explain to me, like I'm 5, how to succeed in homeschooling and what the best online programs there are to use, please. Help. Public education in my state is absolutely done for, especially when it comes to special education. They have been wreaking so much havoc on our lives. It's time to wash our hands with public school and never look back. Otherwise, this will never stop, because the truth is that they don't want kids in special education there. They just don't. I know the laws in my state are completely relaxed for homeschooling. We also don't have the online free public education option in my state. What is the best online program? One that is interactive and learning. Also, what does a daily schedule look like for you all? How do you start? How long do you do it? What's a normal routine? Explain it to me like I'm 5, please. My kids are ages 9, 8, and 5. I did not mention this person's state. I'm guessing FAPE is paperwork that is done in their state to make sure children get what they need in special education. Look, with education being defunded, I've been expecting to see these discussions happen, right? And even before that, for the last 3 years, I have noticed an influx of special ed, specifically autistic kids, into homeschooling, to the point that I've had several people say to me that they thought that my program was a special needs or program specifically for autistic kids. That is not how my program was designed, but my program has attracted kids what we would call EP students. They're pretty high functioning, but there's some extra special needs they need. I'm gonna scroll through what some of the people are saying, but I do have my own ideas. The main reasons not to do online school are the screen time and the lack of flexibility, large workload. Plus, it's very hard to motivate a young one to sit at a desk and stare at a screen. For reference, I'm speaking from the perspective of someone being homeschooled with lots of homeschool friends and family. The friends I have who do online school have screen time over 11 hours a day, which is horrific for children. Legal recommendation for teens is to best bet is buying curriculum for the older two, then mainly teaching the younger one through play with books to supplement until they're legally required school age, usually 6 to 7 in the US. It is true that screen time is overwhelming. Someone says don't use online programs, buy books. Actually teach your children if you can't hire someone or shove them into a class. Probably the type of classes I run. Someone says I strongly recommend checking out a few books. One that was a little kitschy, but a good overview was So You're Thinking About Homeschooling. That is my jam. Hirsch, HIRSCH series, Common Core. What your kindergartner should know, what your first grader should know, what your second grader should know. It goes to grade 5. I really loved those books. Are they out of print? Maybe. Are they still relevant? Yes. Get them. I really love The Well-Trained Mind, but we always lean toward a classical style. My oldest is finishing kindergarten, and we've had great success with Logic Up English and Right Start Math. Besides Common Core books, Common Core is not what you think Common Core is. Common Core just means children in kindergarten in California learn the same thing as children in kindergarten in New York. Common, right? But besides the Common Core books by Hirsch, what your blank grader needs to know, I like the critical thinking workbooks. They were more popular when my kids were young, but they're not hard to get your hands on. If you think through the questions instead of just learning the answers, I really like those workbooks. Now, kids don't like workbooks, but if you're working through them with them, they'll do them. Okay, all that said, I still recommend an online program, generally for kids 12 and under. And this program goes all the way through high school. But high schoolers get a little testy with this program because it's very animated and they feel like they're being pandered to. But especially if you have high needs kids, I recommend Time for Learning, TIME, number 4, Learning, LEARNING, Time for Learning. So the reason I recommend it is because it's your first year of homeschooling and you haven't truly wrapped your head around all that you need to do just yet. And so what's going to happen is Time for Learning is going to make sure your children get the bare minimum. And then on top of that, I would still do some critical thinking workbooks in math and reading. And then I would, especially for the youngest one, I would look for what your blank grader needs to know because it has good sampling of all the poetry your child should be reading at this age, all the short stories your child should be reading at this age. And so now your child has the same literature background as everyone else their age in the country. And so those are my recommendations for that. Okie dokie. I use AI to homeschool. Have parents here been exploring AI products like GPT for homeschooling? Though I sometimes do try to create stories and puzzles on GPT, my kid shows a lot of curiosity to interact with it. I'm wondering if I can include ChatGPT conversations for my child on a daily basis. Is there a way to do this safely? Answers no. No. I mean by safely. One thing you can do is teach your child how to fact check what GPT generates. That's what I was going to say. There's been one or two notorious cases of ChatGPT getting facts wrong. I use it too, and I have tested its ability to know facts that I already knew. It's sometimes gotten stuff like famous astronaut flew which mission wrong. So I have another channel, and it is a history curriculum channel. It is Cheese Press Publishing. And I use ChatGPT all the time when I'm outlining a history timeline, and then I'll dig deeper questions. Unfortunately, I'm really familiar with history. I'm really familiar with American history. I'm pretty familiar with Black history, and I've got a good wealth of knowledge on world history, right? I don't have a real specialty except maybe American history. But I'll ask it a question and I'll get back the answer, and I'm like, that's not right. And so then I'll ask ChatGPT a qualifying question. It'll go, oh, my apologies. Here's the correct answer. And so then I'll be like, is it this answer or that answer and why? They give me sources. And then it'll waffle back and forth for a while and it'll say, well, here are some answers with sources. And so then at that point, you can click through each source. And then you have to vet the sources, right? Where are the sources coming from? UNESCO, major museums, governmental websites, firsthand, right? Not a blog. So, and that there's misinformation online because ChatGPT is just skimming everything and some of the stuff is just opinion. So, I wouldn't say don't use AI with your kids because it is here. Here we are, right? And so, they need to learn how to use it to their best advantage because it's only going to get more intricate and more complicated. So don't just walk away and leave them to do the work. sit there and let them ask the question and then read the question, read the answer together, right? And then ask deeper questions and then ask for sources and then read the sources and then vet the sources and then challenge the answers that ChatGPT made and then ask it to summarize. That for me seems to be the best way to get good, vettable answers. And so now we're teaching kids to do citations, which is real important also. And so this is the way that education is moving. I would go ahead and work with it to make sure that kids are using it responsibly. And guess what? It takes just as much time to properly vet the answers coming from AI as it does to just do the research and write it yourself. So just a little bit of that would probably be quite good. First time mom homeschool advice. Any advice for a first time mom planning on homeschooling? My first baby is due this summer. I was the oldest of 6 kids and homeschooled all my life. My parents were extremely busy with work and babies and really failed me education-wise. I basically did nothing after 8th grade except co-op groups and went straight to working full-time. I don't want to fail my child like my parents did me. I do worry about not being smart enough to be a teacher. I do plan to do tons of research and start early with grade appropriate learning and activities. Any recommendations are greatly appreciated. Thank you. It's rare that someone who feels that they were failed at homeschooling wants to jump into homeschooling. So kudos on the bravery it takes to do that. Keep reading the Reddit horror stories. Be very aware of when and where things can go sideways and how you can reclaim that. It's very important to be hyper vigilant to make sure that you are not messing up your child. So the top commenter says, my advice is to read, reading, and child development. Read about homeschooling and education in general. Read enough that you feel comfortable making your own homeschooling and parenting decisions rather than following what that one book or person tells you to do. Read novels, poetry, plays. Read about history, science, geography, current events. Make reading a part of your daily routine and read mostly things you enjoy, so that becomes second nature. If you are interested in pursuing further formal education for yourself, do it. If you don't want to, that's fine too. Self-education is just as valid. There are tons of free online resources that can teach you more than you can possibly learn in one lifetime. Skipping ahead. When your child is born, read to them a ton, but don't worry about early academics. Playing and exploring the world around them are the best things for young kids. Some light preschool learning is fine, but don't stress yourself or your kids about it. Yeah, so I do get bothered. I feel bothered when people start talking about homeschooling babies and homeschooling kindergartens. There's a series of books called, I can't remember what it is. I'll link it, but it's Milestone. Right? So in the baby through kindergarten age, you're looking for milestones to make sure your child's reaching those milestones. Walking, talking, tying shoes, hand-eye coordination, using scissors and stuff like that. These are things that parents tend to do quite naturally with children. But yeah, reading is fundamental. And not only is you reading very important, but your child seeing you reading and therefore mimicking you and getting to the habit of reading is very important. You can't fail an avid reader. You can't fail a very curious person. And so start at the beginning, treat your child like a baby, make sure they're reaching their milestones. Teach your children to love learning, to love reading, and you do so yourself. So that's all I have for this time. For next time.